Welcome applaud. Welcome back into the Chris Mathis podcast. I'm your host, Chris Mathis, joined by Spencer Mathis once more. It's been over a week since the last episode. A lot to get into today regarding the NFL trade deadline. I had a switch up at work regarding my schedule and the show I work for now. So that all kind of impacted our time that Spence and I was able to get back here with the podcast, but we made it happen. We think that this is the day moving forward, barring any changes. And Spencer also is getting into college basketball public address announcements there at Young Harris College. And we'll talk more on that here in just a few moments. Of course, NFL trades went down before the NFL trade deadline. Unfortunately, the Buccaneers were not one of those teams. However, one thing we are happy about is our sponsor, Information on Demand, as they bring you each and every edition of the Chris Mathis podcast. Information on Demand, whether you need criminal background checks, drug screenings, E-Verify academic accreditations, or other screening services, they've got you covered, and you can rest easy knowing a highly trained search team will get you the information you need in just 8 hours or less. That's Information on Demand, whether you're in Oregon, you're in Tennessee, you're in North Georgia like Spencer, you're in Central Florida like me in Tampa. It does not matter. They can take care of you and or your business. Information on Demand. They'll get you the information you need in 8 hours or less. They're fast. They're affordable. Pre-employment background screening services. Give them a call today, 855-914-4636, or visit them at informationondemand.net. Let Information on Demand take care of all of your business needs. Information on Demand, 855-914-4636. And with that, we are back with some sports talk here on the podcast. And of course, today, the day of the recording, Tuesday, the NFL trade deadline just ended. A lot of teams made some moves. In fact, we saw the busiest trade deadline in NFL history. 12 players traded, the biggest trade deadline day in the last 30 years. Of course, Bradley Chubb, wide receiver Chase Claypool, tight end TJ Hawkinson, wide receiver Calvin Ridley helped to build up a crazy trade deadline day here in the National Football League as teams try to build up their team and try to either, be contenders and be competitors, winners for this year, or be sellers and look forward to the future. Spence, first and foremost, initial thoughts here. 2 hours after that trade deadline ended at 4 p.m. Eastern time on Tuesday?
Pretty action-packed. I like what a couple of the teams did. I like what the Vikings did, going out to get a tight end. Bradley Chubb getting traded away to the Dolphins is very good for Miami. That makes them much better down the stretch of the season because they run cover zero and they need someone that can get after the quarterback. And the guys that they had already were just not doing that on a consistent basis. And then you also have the Jaguars making a trade for the future with Calvin Ridley, who's going to be out for the rest of this season at least, and then maybe even a little bit more next season. It's still undefined, but I think that's a pretty good trade for the Jaguars to give up a 5th-round pick next season at best, and then maybe a 2nd-round pick in 2024. I think a couple of really good trades. I really like the Jaguars trade. I really like their trade.
Before we get into some of the bigger trades, you just mentioned a few of them. Let's talk about teams that missed out right before the trade deadline. Who was the team that needed to make a move the most in order to be a true competitor, not a pretender, but a contender here this year?
The Green Bay Packers. They needed a receiver, and they did not get one.
Aaron Rodgers left hung out to dry once more, and Rodgers obviously struggling this year. I think a lot of that has to do with his talent at wide receiver. You talk about the fact that they moved on from Devontae Adams. He's now in Vegas with Derek Carr. Things don't look pretty there for him either. They've won one game this year. They got shut out last week. The Raiders are in trouble, truly. And I don't know if Devontae Adams realizes that grass isn't always greener on the other side, especially when your team has green on their logo, on their uniform, each and every game. Spence, other than the Green Bay Packers, who else lost? Do the Buccaneers need to make a move? They lost outside linebacker Shaq Barrett. Offensive line has been shaky. Obviously, the Bucs haven't been as good as they hoped. They're 3-5 right now as we approach Week 8 here on Sunday against the Los Angeles Rams.
Yeah, I don't think the Buccaneers should have made any moves. I like that they didn't because the future in Tampa is looking pretty bleak. And if you trade away a 1st-round pick or something for a guy like Bradley Chubb, who you're going to have to pay within the next 2 years, you're going to lose a 1st-round pick. It's just not worth it. So not making a move doesn't really make me angry as a Buccaneer fan because we are going to get some key players back from injury like Logan Ryan, Akeem Hicks, Carlton Davis will eventually be back. Antoine Winfield will be back playing next week. The receiving core should get a little bit better down the stretch. The offensive line with Leverett replacing Guteke is not horrible, as you could see in the previous game against the Ravens. So I think the Bucs didn't really need to make a move, so I'm not too angry that they did not.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the fence about it. I see what you're saying as well. But if this is Tom Brady's last year, I do wish they would have made a move. But that is all over with now. The trade deadline in the National Football League ended just about 2 hours ago at the recording of this podcast. It's a trade deadline that ended at 4 p.m. on Tuesday afternoon. Now, one or two, maybe even 3 or 4 big trades that happen across the league. You look at the top of this chart right here on the screen. If you're listening to the Chris Mathis podcast on Spotify and or YouTube, which most of you guys do, if you are doing so, make sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Also, leave a comment down below in the comments regarding what you want to see, what discussion you want us to talk about. We can talk about any team, any sport, get any interview that you want. We have a lot of contacts with my new position here at iHeartMedia Tampa Bay. And in fact, I'm at the iHeartRadio Tampa Bay studio, beautiful studio, courtesy of this great team. I thank you guys for allowing me to do so. But with these trades in the National Football League at the trade deadline in 2022, Denver traded linebacker Bradley Chubb to Miami, as well as a 5th-round draft pick in 2025. In return, Denver got a 2023 first-round pick, a 2024 4th-round pick, and they also got running back Chase Edmonds as well. Spence, break down this trade. Obviously, Miami had a great week last week. We see that their record is much better than some expected. They're 5-3 right now. They're in 3rd in the AFC East, and they just landed a solid outside linebacker and a pick in which they could help build towards the future or use in a trade package later on in a 2025 5th-round draft pick.
Yeah, a really good trade for the Dolphins. The Broncos, I don't know if they really should have traded Bradley Chubb away, I guess. With the division they're in, with the Chiefs being so good, they may already be giving up hope with Russell Wilson at quarterback, which is pretty crazy considering that heading into the season, the Raiders and Broncos were supposed to be very good teams. Also, the Chargers have been a bit of a letdown this year. So
Huge letdown.
The Broncos trading away Bradley Chubb, it would be shocking to me if I didn't see all over the place that they were going to do it yesterday, which I still didn't think that they should have traded him away. He's a very good pass rusher, 5.5 sacks this season, like 28 total pressures. He's had a great year. And to trade him away for a 1st-round pick, I mean, that's his best value that they could get. But then you look over at the Dolphins, who really needed a pass rusher, and they got a top 10 pass rusher in the NFL. So I think it's a pretty good trade for both teams, as long as the Broncos were already set in stone that they were going to get rid of Chubb.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the Broncos were all in to win this year. Obviously, they traded for Russell Wilson. They got Russell Wilson to be there. Yeah, it's been a letdown to start off the year. He had a decent game this past weekend on Sunday. Nothing too crazy, but they did win, and that was obviously good. But the fact that they did all that to get here, to have a shot to win it all, in a window that, honestly, I thought closed maybe last year for Denver. I thought 2-3 years ago they had the defense. They were just lacking that spark on offense with Drew Lock at quarterback. Now you look at Russell Wilson stacked up against Drew Lock in terms of their first 7-8 games with the team. Numbers are identical, except you were on a rookie contract with Drew Lock, and you didn't have to give up much, if anything, obviously. But you give up a lot for Russell Wilson, and now you trade away one of your best defensive players in your first year with Russell Wilson. That says a lot to me. Obviously, the Denver Broncos, their owner, has to do with something with Walmart, and they have a very iffy head coach there, a coach that I think is scared. He doesn't play to win every game. He doesn't really have high IQ in terms of clock management. We've seen it time and time again here this year. But the fact that they already have decided they're going to move on from Bradley Chubb shocks me. And then to toss him to another AFC team also worries me as well. And I think you're right. I think they're going to go ahead and sell on this year, surprisingly enough, because, again, they're getting a 1st-round draft pick next year, a 4th-round draft pick the following year, and a running back in Chase Edmonds, which I don't see making much of an impact at all if they have Melvin Gordon in the backfield. He had a pretty decent game on the road this past weekend. Now, another trade we saw in the NFL was Chase Claypool get traded from the Pittsburgh Steelers to the Chicago Bears. Chase Claypool, a couple of years ago, I thought had a good year or two, and then since then has kind of fallen off the wagon, but he's still one of those guys that has a lot of potential. His best year came in 2020, 873 receiving yards, 9 touchdown catches. Last year, just over 850 receiving yards, 2 touchdown catches. This year, he's got 311 yards and 1 touchdown catch on the season. Now, the Bears, they gave up a second-round pick. They do have help now for quarterback Justin Fields, a guy who has really not had any help. When he's able to run, able to escape the pocket, he looks like a guy that you can build around with the right pieces, but the Bears are so far away from that. They're so far away from being a true contender. Talk about this trade that we saw for Chicago and the fact that they got a wide receiver and Chase Claypool.
Yeah, it's a really good trade for both teams because the Steelers have Deontay Johnson. They've got George Pickens as one of their outside threats. So they really didn't need Chase Claypool. He's also apparently he's also a bit of a locker room diva, which that could just be coming out now because they traded him. But I also think that's a pretty good trade for the Bears. I think I would have liked the trade a lot more for Chicago if they would have given up a third rounder instead of a second rounder. But they needed a receiver to pair alongside the one that they've got right now, Darnell Mooney. And they need weapons. I mean, their tight end scored his first touchdown since 2020. And Darnell Mooney hasn't done very much. I mean, I expected him to have a huge season with Justin Fields, but he hasn't done much. And now getting Justin Fields a one-on-one receiver that he can throw the ball downfield to in one-on-one situations, maybe in double coverage, I think Claypool's the guy. And you're going to get him for 2 years without having to pay him, and you're only giving away a second-round pick. I mean, Claypool obviously is not a receiver that's worth a first-round pick, even though he was one himself just 2 or 3 years ago. But I do think this is a pretty even trade for both teams, even though both of these teams are absolutely dead this season. So I'm going to have to say that the Steelers are probably the beneficiaries of this trade because they're 2-6. The Bears are 3-5. They've got a bit of a shot in the bad NFC this year. So I think that this is a win for the Steelers just because they're so bad. And the Bears, they still don't have a chance at the playoffs, in my opinion. But I think that this will be good for Justin Fields' development.
Yeah, looking at the NFC North, the Vikings 6-1, obviously the clear favorite, the clear front runner in that division. Green Bay alongside Chicago at 3-5, Detroit 1-6. Speaking of the Detroit Lions, they traded away arguably their best player besides running back Williams, who's been phenomenal this year. But T.J. Hawkinson, the wide receiver, was traded off to the Minnesota Vikings, which baffles me, number one, because he was one of the clear favorites there for quarterback Jared Goff. Number two, they also traded him within the NFC to Minnesota, and Minnesota gave up a second and third round draft pick for tight end T.J. Hawkinson. Who came out on top in this trade, Spence, and how do you view this trade for both teams?
I think the Vikings came out on top just in overall with T.J. Hawkinson because the Lions a couple of years ago used the top 10 pick on a tight end, which is something that you really don't want to do unless it's Rob Gronkowski, who himself wasn't a top 10 pick. So using a top 10 pick on a guy like T.J. Hawkinson on a horrible franchise that had glaring needs besides tight end was just a bad idea in general. He's had a pretty good career with the Lions, though, and now getting traded to a 6-1 Vikings team is very good for Hawkinson. But the Lions, they got a second-round pick and a third-round pick. Really, there's no other way they could have got anything better. And they're a team that, I mean, there wasn't high expectations for the Lions this year, but I think that they are underperforming based on what we thought Dan Campbell would have this team around in year two. I mean, they don't even have a defense. Their defense is giving up like 30 to 40 points per game on a guy that's built on biting kneecaps. So it's tough right now for the Lions, and I don't foresee it getting any better within the next couple of years. So why not trade away for the future? And maybe if they want to cut ties with Dan Campbell here in 1 or 2 years, the new regime will have some more draft picks.
Yeah, you talk about the Lions, the fact that they won week 2, they beat the Washington Commanders, which we thought was a big deal. Obviously, they won a game, but since then, it's been tough sledding. They lost by 4 points to the Vikings. They lost by 3 points to Seattle at home. They got shut out by the New England Patriots 29-0 just a few weeks ago. They lost to the Cowboys 24-6 on October 23rd, and then came up short by 4 points against the Dolphins at home last week. So it's almost like they're in every game, but they're not. Like, you just have no feeling, you have no confidence in that team. And that says a lot because Dan Campbell preached on defense, preached on aggressiveness, preached on so many things. And ultimately, it's not winning ball games right now in Detroit. I do hate that they traded away their tight end, but in terms of Minnesota, looking at this deal, Minnesota just got a lot better. I think Kirk Cousins just got a lot better, especially with their tight end, Irv Smith, IRV Smith, going on injury reserve, I believe, for a few weeks with an injury. And, of course, T.J. Hawkinson is not just an average tight end. He's in that good caliber, not that great tight end caliber, but he's definitely a top 5, top 6 tight end in the NFL. And in terms of my fantasy team, I have him on my fantasy team, so I'm happy to see that he's going to a team with a good quarterback that has multiple threats. And, of course, Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, Dalvin Cook out of the backfield. So I think that his targets will raise in the red zone. He's going to score more touchdowns with Minnesota. Now, the last trade we'll talk about here on NFL trade deadline day, the Atlanta Falcons traded off wide receiver Calvin Ridley to the Jacksonville Jaguars, who obviously are all in on helping quarterback Trevor Lawrence here in year 2. Even though he's not going to get an impact this year with Calvin Ridley at wide receiver, we saw them make some moves this offseason, paid big money to get a good wide receiver there in Jacksonville. Now they add another receiver for next year with a trade and giving up a conditional 5th-round pick for Calvin Ridley. How do you view this trade? What does that say about how the Jacksonville Jaguars also view their former 1st-round draft pick, quarterback Trevor Lawrence?
Yeah, this is a great trade because next year, Trevor Lawrence is in his make-or-break season in year 3. This year, once again, he's underperformed. He has not had a great season. They got him a couple of weapons. He has Christian Kirk to throw to, who they spent $20-something million plus on per season now. And then now they're going to trade for Calvin Ridley, a 5th-round pick at best next year, but a 2nd-round pick in 2024. So for Atlanta, I think this was a trade that they had to make either way, because I think that the ties, even before Ridley got suspended, were cut with Atlanta. I think they were looking to trade him a little bit before that. Even though he's a very good receiver, I think it's a good trade for Atlanta at the moment with him being out an entire year. He missed the entire season. I'm sure Arthur Smith doesn't want to deal with it because he's not the guy that drafted him. So I think this is a win-win for both teams, but the Jaguars, a very good trade for them looking out at next year, because they still don't have a chance this year, and next year is Trevor Lawrence's most important season of his career probably.
Yeah, no doubt. And you talk about the Falcons dishing off their wide receiver Calvin Ridley, who we saw last year get in trouble, get suspended from the NFL for this entire season. And we spoke about it in the group chat last year after it happened. I said, hey, this guy simply doesn't want to be here after how he was acting when the news came out. He didn't want to be an Atlanta Falcon. So this is perfect. He gets a fresh start. He gets a new young quarterback that's maybe a year or 2 younger than he is. Also, a pretty fresh start in terms of a solid head coach there in Jacksonville, a team that looks up, obviously, and a team that had success a few years ago against the New England Patriots. They fell short in the AFC Championship. I guess that was 2017 at this point, in which Jalen Ramsey was still there. Blake Bortles was quarterback there, the Jaguars, but now they're trying to build up that new regime in Jacksonville, and Calvin Ridley can be a part of that success or that failure. As you talk about with Trevor Lawrence's 3rd year, his make-or-break season, which is hard to believe. It feels like yesterday he was in his freshman year there at Clemson. But now we're going to get into our NFL picks here on the Chris Mathis podcast, as we do each and every week. The undefeated Philadelphia Eagles, they'll travel to Houston to take on the 1-5 Houston Texans. Of course, the Eagles are a favorite in this game. A 2-point favorite, 2-touchdown favorite, 14-point favorite. Philadelphia Eagles on the road at Houston on Thursday Night Football.
Yeah, easy victory in this one for the Eagles on Thursday Night Football. Another horrible Thursday night game. Another horrible primetime game in general. This season has been very lackluster. The best games have been played at the 1 p.m. hour. So an 8:15 matchup between the Texans and then the best team in the NFL, the Philadelphia Eagles, should be an absolute blowout, and that is exactly what Thursday Night Football has become this season, with Kirk Herbstreit making his jump to the NFL.
Yeah, I think they do win this game. I don't know if they win by 2 touchdowns. Believe it or not, I think it's closer than 2, so I think the Eagles win this game. I don't think it's by 2 touchdowns. I'm going to surprise you guys and say Lovie Smith keeps it close. Also, Brandon Cooks was excused from practice today, along with head coach Lovie Smith of the Houston Texans. And Brandon Cooks did not get traded. So that's a question mark to me. I don't know what that means for this team moving forward. I don't know what that means for Brandon Cooks moving forward, but that does surprise me. Another thing that surprises me is the fact that you believe the Philadelphia Eagles are undefeated or are the best team in the NFL. Is that simply because they're undefeated, or do you truly view them as the best team in the NFL over a team like the Buffalo Bills?
It's because they're undefeated, so they have the best record. So I have to call them the best team, at least this far in the season. Being undefeated this far into the season is pretty impressive, no matter who you're playing against.
Yeah, I think coming into the year, I thought that the Bucs would play the Eagles in the NFC Championship. Do I think that now, as of right now? No, I do not. I think the Eagles are there and the Bucs are not, but that can change, of course, once the Bucs get things rolling. Now, of course, moving on to Sunday's games, we're going to skip on the Rams game against the Bucs. We'll save that for a little bit later. The Minnesota Vikings take on the Washington Commanders and DC. The Vikings 6-1. The Commanders 500. Taylor Heineke at quarterback. They looked pretty decent last week. Late 2-minute drive that looked great. Found Scary Terry to ice things over. The Vikings are 3.5-point road favorites.
Yeah, Heineke undefeated so far this season, 2-0 as a starter. Give me the Vikings in this game by at least a touchdown. I watched Heineke's performance last week. It wasn't great until that final drive in which he found Terry McLaurin down the field for 40-plus yards. Heineke's not a great quarterback. If you keep him in a game long enough, a lot like Cooper Rush, you have an opportunity to win the game, but that's with any quarterback in the entire NFL. So the defense is going to have to play great, and I do not think that the Commanders' defense can shut down the Vikings offense that just added TJ Hawkinson.
Yeah, I think it'll be a scary blowout there in DC. Minnesota comes away 7-1 on the year and the NFC. Now the Carolina Panthers hit the road to take on the Bengals. The Bengals 7.5-point favorites at home. Even without Jamar Chase, how do you view this game? PJ Walker still at quarterback there for the Panthers.
Yeah, this will be a close game, a battle of the cats. I think the Bengals still come out on top of this game, not by 7.5 points. I think the Bengals win within 4. The Panthers have been a team that plays everybody close this season, especially after they fired Matt Rule and they got the interim coach as their new guy. So last week they should have won the game. They should have beat the Falcons. They called that stupid penalty against DJ Moore. So I think the Panthers are pretty much rolling right now, even though they're 1-1 over the last 2 games. They could easily be 2-0 after killing the Bucs and then what should have been a loss for the Atlanta Falcons. So this game's going to be closer than 7.5, but the Bengals are going to pull it out.
I think the Bengals win this game convincingly. They need to. Obviously, Joe Burrow got beat up last week. It looked rough. He got hit. It was brutal. It was brutal against the Cleveland Browns on Monday Night Football. Now, the Buffalo Bills, they're 6-1 this year. They were my prediction to go to the Super Bowl against the Buccaneers before the season started, and they'll take on the New York Jets there in New Jersey. The Jets are 5-3. Zach Wilson had some luck off the field. He's having luck on the field this year, too. And the Jets are an underdog. They're a 12-point home underdog against the Buffalo Bills. I don't know. We'll see how this thing plays out. Zach Wilson's arm is in question. He's a good quarterback. He's small. I don't think he has a cannon for an arm. He does have good talent, but can he compete in this game against the Buffalo Bills? And he has a wide receiver in Elijah Moore that isn't sure they even have chemistry whatsoever there. And Zach Wilson's second year.
Yeah, the Bills being 12-point favorites over a 5-3 team is all I need to hear about a 5-3 team. The Jets are not a team that should be 5-3, and you're going to see that whenever the season ends and they've got 7 or maybe 8 victories on the entire year. Zach Wilson is not a great quarterback. I liked him coming out of BYU, but his first 2 games have been bad. Last week was horrible. He threw 3 interceptions, all of them not even close to his target against the Patriots. Literally won the New England Patriots that game 22-17 with those 3 interceptions. So the Bills, I think they're going to win this game, and they're going to win by over 2 touchdowns.
Buffalo Bills, again, the road team, and yeah, I think they dominate as well. Josh Allen spoke after his game on Sunday Night Football against the Green Bay Packers. He was proud of the win, but knew he could have played better. He did have a pair of picks. Yeah. He still played great. He's going to come out here in this one and just dot up that New York Jets defense and New Jersey. Now, the Indianapolis Colts, they benched Matt Ryan a few weeks ago. 37-year-old veteran quarterback has been benched not only for a few weeks, but throughout this entire season. They've moved on to Sam Ehlinger at quarterback under center. They'll take on the New England Patriots on the road. The Patriots, 5.5-point favorites. They're 4-4 on the year. The Colts, 3-4-1. Who do you have, Spence?
Yeah, I think this is going to be a close game as long as Jonathan Taylor is playing for the Colts. They've got to run the ball, which they haven't been able to do even with Jonathan Taylor. I think he'll pick it up as the season goes on. Patriots, 5.5-point favorites. I think the Patriots win this game by 3, so they're not going to get to that 5.5 points, but I think that it's going to be a 3-point victory for the Patriots because they're a team that will just win somehow.
Let's see. I'll take the Colts. I think Sam Ehlinger, they win this game. It's going to be surprising enough. That's my hot take for this week. The Colts win on the road against the New England Patriots. 5.5-point spread. I think the Colts cover that spread. They win this game on the road. The Las Vegas Raiders, I stand corrected earlier. I said 1 win. They have 2 wins on the year. They take on the Jacksonville Jaguars in Florida. Also a 2-win team. Battle of 2 AFC teams, 1 in the West, 1 in the South. Who do you have in this, Spence, considering the Jaguars are 2-point home underdogs against the Raiders?
Yeah, I've got the Raiders in this game. I just don't think Trevor Lawrence has really put put it together at all this year. He's been a pretty good runner. He's still wildly inaccurate, which is pretty crazy considering how good he was at Clemson. And then in late games, he throws horrible interceptions like he did
We
last
saw
week in
that, yeah.
London against the Broncos. So even whenever he was in Clemson, he made a lot of bad mistakes late in games, and that was one big knock on him heading into the NFL. Would he be able to handle adversity? And so far, he has not shown it. So I think the Jaguars are going to lose this game by 3.
So close game there. The Raiders bounce back. I'll take the Raiders as well. It's just a 2-point spread. I think they cover that as well. A field goal wouldn't surprise me. The Miami Dolphins, they'll take on the Chicago Bears. The Miami Dolphins on the road are 5-point favorites as they look to improve to 6-3 on the year. While on the other side of things, the Bears look to win their 4th game of the year.
Yeah, 2 teams with new weapons. The Bears with Chase Claypool, then the Dolphins just signed Bradley Chubb or traded for Bradley Chubb. I think the Dolphins are going to win this game. Maybe we see a little bit of a connection brewing between Chase Claypool and Justin Fields because the trade deadline was on Tuesday. Claypool's going to get enough practice reps this week with his new team to be able to play on Sunday. So I think the Bears lose this game, but we may see Chase Claypool go for over 50 yards in this game in his first game as a Chicago Bear. So I think the Dolphins win this one probably by 10. Dolphins by 10.
Like a 31-21 type game, a 34-24 type game?
Yeah, 34-24.
All right. I just got the notification that my desktop that I'm using right here is going to die very soon. So we are officially in lightning round mode. We still have a few things to touch up on here aside from these scores. So we got to run through these. The Green Bay, let me pick my team as well. The Miami Dolphins win on the road. They pick up their 6th win on the year with Tua at quarterback. The Green Bay Packers travel to Detroit. They'll take on the Lions. Packers, man. I know it's a rivalry. I know they've been disappointing. They're a 3.5-point favorite in this game. Packers trying to get out of the slump. They didn't make any moves at the trade deadline. Aaron Rodgers is pissed off with his front office there in Green Bay. Has to be. I'm going to go ahead and cut you off, Spence. I think Green Bay dominates this game on the road as they pick up a NFC North victory over the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, Packers by 2 touchdowns in this game. They're going to have to win this game to have any shot at the playoffs. Same thing with the Buccaneers that we're going to be talking about soon. So the Packers are going to win this game by 10. They've got to get back on the tracks. I think at least a 10-point victory for the Packers, probably 2 touchdowns.
The Los Angeles Chargers, they'll travel to Atlanta. Of course, our friends, the Pugh brothers, will more than likely be there for this 1 o'clock kickoff on Sunday. Chargers 4-3. Falcons 4-4. If you would have told me that the Chargers would just have 4 wins before the year, I thought you were crazy. If you would have told me the Falcons finished off the year with more than 2 or 3 wins, I thought you were crazy. Right now, they're 500 on the year. Although they have been a surprise, they are underdogs at home. They're 3-point underdogs on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, the Falcons are missing a lot of pieces in their secondary right now, and the Chargers are getting their receivers healthy at the right time. I mean, I think Keenan Allen's coming back. Mike Williams, I don't think he's still back. But I think the Chargers win this game pretty easily against the Falcons. I think Chargers by 7.
Chargers by 7. Write it down. I'm going to take the Falcons. I think the Falcons, they have all the momentum in the world right now, and I think they're going to prevail. They're going to upset the Chargers at home in this game. Write it down. Pugh brothers, some way, somehow, they get it done after taking control of the NFC South. The Bucs are in trouble. The Buccaneers are in trouble, and with that, let's talk about this Bucs game on Sunday. The Rams come to town, 4:25 kickoff. The Buccaneers, 3-point favorites at home. They've yet to cover when they are favorited to win a game this year. They take on a 3-win Los Angeles Rams team, a team that does not look like they won the Super Bowl last year. These 2 teams played the NFC playoffs last year, and we were upset that the Bucs lost to the Rams off a 0 blitz. And now the Rams don't look like a great team. The Buccaneers are far from a great team. Who do you have in this game, Spence, and why?
The Buccaneers and the Rams both need this game. I think it's going to be pretty high scoring. I think both offenses are going to pick up a little bit of steam against the battered defenses of both of these teams. So I think the Buccaneers win this game. Just for my sake, I hope we win to go 4-5. Because if the Buccaneers lose, they're out of the playoffs, really. They really don't have a great shot. If the Rams lose, they're in the exact same boat as the Bucs. So this one should be very close, and I think it's going to be pretty high scoring.
High scoring game. It'll be close. For once, I am taking the Rams. I haven't picked against the Bucs all year long except for against the Ravens. I will take the Rams in this game. And it could be a high-scoring game. But who knows? Maybe the divorce from Tom Brady and Giselle, maybe that helps Tom Brady. Maybe he gets this offense rolling. I could see both sides. I could see a coin flip in this game. Either way, it could be a high-scoring game. It will be less than a touchdown. So that 3-point spread is going to stand in this one. I don't know. I'm going to stick with my first thought, the Rams winning this game in Tampa. Now, the Arizona Cardinals host the Seattle Seahawks in a battle of the birds. Cardinals have been a disappointment. The Seahawks have been impressive. They're 5-3. The Cardinals 3-5 without Russell Wilson. Or correction, the Cardinals 3-5 with Kyler Murray. Even with these Call of Duty extra point days, which they might have one here shortly, Cardinals are actually favorited in this game, 2 points over the Seahawks at home.
Yeah, I've got the Cardinals in this game. They also need to win this game. If they fall to 3-6, they're basically done on the season too. I think the Seahawks are playing great. They're playing way above their expectations. And just like the Atlanta Falcons, it's going to come to an end here soon. Just like the New York Jets, it's going to come to an end here soon. And I think that they're going to lose this game. Seattle's going to lose to the Cardinals. Cardinals are going to pick up something. I think DeAndre Hopkins and Kyler Murray have been pretty good so far through the 2 games that they've played. So I've got the Cardinals in this game. Cardinals lost last week by 8 points to a very good Vikings team. And Seattle, I think they pulled out their victory by just over 9 points. Kenneth Walker had to get the game-winning touchdown. He's a stud. So I've got the Seahawks losing this game against the Cardinals.
I've got the Cardinals losing. They've had struggles at home over the past couple of years. I believe 3 weeks ago was their first home win in nearly a full season. And the Seahawks have all the momentum in the world right now. I think that I believe in Geno Smith. I also believe in Pete Carroll. I thought Pete Carroll's career was almost done, especially after they trade away Bobby Wagner. They also move on from Russell Wilson at quarterback, and they're rejuvenated there in Seattle. He knows how to win games. I don't think that they're in the playoffs, or I don't think they have a shot to really be a contender this year. But I think they go on the road and they win this game in Arizona, or in Glendale, Arizona. The Tennessee Titans, they'll travel to Kansas City to take on the Chiefs. It's Sunday Night Football. Last year, this is a game for the ages. This is a big game. But this year, I think the Titans have taken a drop-off. And I think that Ryan Tannehill, coming off of an injury here this year, he makes his return in this game. I believe so, unless Malik Willis is going to get the start, get that nod. But the Chiefs 5-2, the Titans 5-2. I think the Titans haven't played up to that 5-2 record. I don't think that they're a true competitor. I think they're a playoff team. But the Chiefs, 12.5-point favorites in this game at home at Arrowhead.
Yeah, the Chiefs being 12.5-point favorites against a division rival in the Tennessee Titans is absolutely crazy to me. The Titans are a team under Mike Vrabel that just know how to win. Last year, they were 13-3 with the most injuries in the entire NFL. This year, they're 5-2 with a below average roster other than Derrick Henry. Their defense is decent. Derrick Henry's had a very good revitalization of his season over the last 2 or 3 weeks. He had 200 yards last week and 2 touchdowns. I'm going to take a shocker here. I'm going to go with the Titans in this game. I think they're going to prevail. They're going to move on to 6-2 with Mike Vrabel as their head coach, because I believe in Coach Vrabel. I think he's one of the best coaches in the league, and he's proven that. He's been the head coach now. This is his 3rd season for the Titans, and they've had great seasons with below average rosters. Their GM has got to pick it up here soon. I think the Malik Willis draft choice was pretty good for the future, but Tannehill should be playing in this game. And as long as Derrick Henry can run all over this Chiefs defense, which isn't very good, I think the Titans can hold on to the ball long enough and keep it away from Patrick Mahomes and win this game 24-20.
Give me Patrick Mahomes, and give me your best Patrick Mahomes impression.
Derrick Henry, man, he's one of the best running backs that we're going to go against this year. It's going to be tough playing out here against them because we did lose Tyreek Hill to the Dolphins earlier on.
Heading into this season. Say we're going to win this game. Say we're going to win this game against the Titans.
I think we're really going to lose this game against the Titans. Man. It's going to be tough. I'm sorry.
That's it.
That's just what Patrick Mahomes believes.
No, that's it. Patrick Mahomes wins this game just out of the disrespect that you just fed him by, not saying he was going to win this game.
Like a Muppet. I can't help it.
So I'm going to take the Chiefs in this game, even with that crazy spread, nearly a 2-touchdown spread. Now, Monday Night Football, the Baltimore Ravens travel to the Superdome. They're in New Orleans. New Orleans 3-5. They've moved on from Jameis Winston for now as a starting quarterback. Andy Dalton looks decent, but that's because Alvin Kamara had one of his better games in nearly 2 years last week. And the Baltimore Ravens, they're 5-3. Lamar Jackson has 15 pass touchdowns, just 6 picks. Yeah, that's right, on the year. The Baltimore Ravens, 2.5-point favorites on the road.
Baltimore Ravens, 2.5-point favorites against the New Orleans Saints.
That's correct.
The Ravens are going to run away with this game. The Saints are not a good team. Andy Dalton's decent. We've seen him have a couple of bad games where he's thrown 2 pick sixes in those games against the Cardinals. They got absolutely smoked on a Thursday night game. I don't think the Saints are a good team. I think the Saints lose this game by a ton. They're going to get ran all over by that Ravens offense. I just don't believe in the Saints offense to keep up with the Ravens either.
You know what? I'm biased here. I believe in Alvin Kamara. I need Alvin Kamara to dominate in this game, and I'm going to take the Saints to win this game. It's a home game. It's Monday night. The Saints have always performed well when it comes to primetime games. I don't know. I'm going to take the Saints in this game. I think it's a close game. Spencer shakes his head. You guys can't see him. You know who he looks like right now? He kind of looks like Batman. And with that being said, he is the voice of the Young Harris College Mountain Lion basketball program, and he was Batman this past week at the purple and white scrimmage game. Spence, talk about the fact that you were able. What was that?
Vengeance.
Yeah, if you guys are now streaming us, which obviously you are because you're tuned in, check out YouTube and or Spotify. Check out your screen right now. That is Spencer. That is Bruce Wayne. That is Batman calling a basketball game at the collegiate level. Public address announcements there at Young Harris College. Spence, number one, what led you to your decision to wear this outfit to the game and think, hey, you know what? I'm going to get by with this. Let's see if they allow it. Let's see if they don't kick me off from that scorer's table.
I bought the outfit. The event that I bought it for was canceled. And I decided, hey, if I don't wear it on the 31st of October, I'm not going to get to wear this shit. So I texted somebody that works at Young Harris. I said, I'm wearing it. They said, okay. I walked in with it. And with 20 seconds before the game started, I took this picture. I was very rushed, but I did take the picture thanks to an absolute stud taking the photo, if you want to elaborate on that. But
Bill Carrier.
I won a contest that I didn't even know existed for wearing that costume because it's so sweet. That's actually the Batman Robert Pattinson suit, which is pretty sweet. And it was only $50. So I think it was a $50 well spent.
Oh, man. All right. That's a little bit more. You should have told me that. I thought it was a little bit less than that, but it does look good. Man, I thought it was going to be cheaper than that, Spence.
You think that an entire costume is under $50? You spend $40 on a t-shirt.
True. But I guess I haven't had a costume in a while now.
Yeah, you're
missing out on that aspect of life. But
you could be Spider-Man.
You talk about Bill Carrier, the guy that took this photo. Of course, his daughter, Gabby Akinsanya, was on our podcast just a few weeks ago. She works for Fresh Tape Media. She's the one that does so many great things there in Denver, Colorado, all over the country regarding sports media. And her dad is the one that took this photo, which is how we were able to collaborate with Gabby on the podcast. Spence, did you have any issues with your mask getting in the way? Did you have any sweats? Did you have any, were you hot? I know that stadium's kind of cold there at Young Harris College. What was kind of your takeaway on that?
I couldn't see out of my eyes, out of the sides, but I could see perfectly straight on. So it was okay for reading scripts and whatever. I was turning my head like this the entire time. It was pretty good. One of the referees asked me who I was. I said, well, he actually asked me if I was the Dark Knight. I said, no, I'm a White Knight dressed up in a Batman costume. He didn't get the joke, thankfully. It was a very risky joke to make, but I made it, and it was fun. It's a fun costume.
Shame. You're canceled. So how did the costume contest work? Because you're the announcer. What, did they hand you a script, and it was like, hey, we have a costume contest going on. Here's the winner. It's me, or what?
Yeah, they told me that there was a costume contest before the men's game started, and they were saying, at halftime, we're going to do the contest. We'll pick a winner. And I was like, okay. And then they walked up to me and said, hey, you won. Don't announce it, though, because it will look bad if the announcer wins the contest. So I could not announce myself as the victor. But I did get a ton of coupons and discount codes. So it's pretty sweet. Got $5 movie tickets all the way up until November of next year.
Really? Let's go. Not bad. Not bad. All right, guys. That is the Chris Mathis podcast. That was Spencer Mathis, a.k.a. Bruce Wayne, a.k.a. Batman, a.k.a. The GOAT. And you can see him at any Young Harris College basketball game this year. Go check the schedule. YHCathletics.com. That's YHCathletics.com. He is the public address announcer. And he, of course, is my brother. And he's also the co-host of TCM Pod.
I want to say one more thing. Josh Allen, I think, is a bit overrated. He is not as good as Patrick Mahomes. I want you to know that because he kept the Green Bay Packers, who are a horrible team, in that game on Sunday night, in which that game should not have been anywhere close because they were blowing them out of the water. He threw 2 late interceptions that just had 0% chance of being completed. I think down the stretch, you're going to see, at least in the AFC Championship game, that Patrick Mahomes is a better quarterback and the Chiefs are a better team. And that's what we're going to see. You're not going to see the Buffalo Bills in the Super Bowl. You're going to see the Chiefs once more.
Dude, you need to just, you know what, with that, we got to end it right there. Hey, anyways, also last announcement, if you guys do not follow me on Instagram, which I hope you do, at the Chris Mathis, a little bit over a week ago at this point, I became the host of the afternoon drive show here at 953 WDAE in Tampa, the Ronnie and T Crash show. Check us out 3 to 7 p.m. every day. Download that iHeartRadio app and search the Ronnie and T Crash show or search 953 WDAE. We're on 3 to 7 p.m. every day. Great host, great co-host. Of course, I started here with the Pat and Aaron show. Loved my time there. But we had a kind of a change up of the lineup with shows, and that's how it all shook out here with the WDAE team at iHeartRadio Tampa Bay. As always, thank you guys for tuning in. We do appreciate you, and we will catch you guys very soon. Talk to Him Tuesday guest will be announced in the coming days right here on social media at TCM Pod.